about it. Everybody will get this question one way or another. Names changed, a little bit different on the scenario, but it doesn't change the fact that the broker died and that new broker has to relist. Make sense? In order to protect a seller, when a buyer assumes a previous loan on a property and takes out a secondary mortgage, it is important that the seller do the following.
File a substitution of liability form.
Make sense? The seller's agent makes a false statement unknown to the seller. The buyer discovers this and backs out of the contract. The seller tries to enforce the sales contract. What is the most likely result?
The buyer will sue the agent for fraud.
Make sense?
Uh-huh.
The buyer, in other scenarios for this question, the buyer has the right to sue both. And then in this case, the seller can turn around and sue their broker. But if the state exam question reverses the scenario and the seller commits fraud, the agent doesn't know, the buyer can still sue both, and then the broker would have to sue the seller. Does that make sense? In that scenario, remember how it works. You're held liable for the actions of the principal too when it comes to actions against the buyer. That's the liability that you carry, okay? That's why it's important to always get paid for your work, because ultimately you are carrying this liability. Agent Maria was representing buyers of a house. Their funding was coming from their Uncle Paul upon his approval of the property. Agent Maria prepared an offer and submitted it to the seller's agent. In the offer, she wrote the terms and said that Uncle Paul would most definitely approve the property. Without inquiring any further on the matter, after the offer was accepted, the buyers told Agent Maria that Uncle Paul was out of the country and they were unsure when he would return. Agent Maria
misrepresentation.
because she left out one key concept there, right? What's the key?
Uncle Paul?
Is out of the country.
Hmm.
That's a problem, right? So one thing that we want to pay attention to, again, long question, and what typically happens with these long questions is there's a lot of information that you have to kind of sift through. But if we were to see this, you would be able to figure it out because it's the same question, okay? Sometimes they'll say it's unlawful, sometimes unlawful won't be a choice, it'll be unethical, so you gotta look and see how it's worded. But the gist of this conversation is that the agent did not disclose that Uncle Paul was out of the country, leaving the seller with misinformation, or in this case, misrepresentation. Make sense? Alright. It wasn't innocent, right? He did it on purpose. It wasn't fraudulent misrepresentation. What's fraudulent? Fraudulent is with the intent to deceive. He wasn't trying to deceive anybody. He was just being negligent in this case. Make sense? The principle of conformity states
The maximum value obtained when a reasonable degree of building similarity is achieved in the neighborhood.
so again, the key word to conformity is similarity.
Yeah.
See that? The primary duty of a broker is
To find the purchaser and offer to purchase and deposit.
leveraging in real estate most closely means
Using a liquid fund.
a property was sold for $63,000. Oh, let me just give you this. I'm still getting reports that there's no math. So when you see math questions in your binder, what we advise you to do is just skip them. So we're gonna skip them now. Why didn't we skip the other one? I don't know, we just forgot to. So today we're gonna skip it. Here's why. I mean, this is easy, right? You can actually use your calculator and do the percentages and figure it out. But what I don't want you to stress about math, and here's why. Some people get math and they're like, whoa, I love math, this is great. And they do very well in math questions. But that's not the majority of the people in the classroom. They see a math question and they freeze. And on the state exam, they freeze even more. And so there's not enough, even if they do have math questions, which again, we're getting the course that there was no math questions, there's not enough math that they can put in there to cause you not to pass. You master the rest, right? So that's really important to remember. Don't, when you see the math, just skip it, and then when you go take your test, you skip it, obviously, and at the end of your test in round 3, you do it with your hard questions, okay? You don't approach math questions. Math questions take time, and they're energy suckers if you happen to get math questions. What some people are saying is that it kind of looked like it was gonna be math, but there was just numbers, and then that's the one that we're gonna show you, where it actually asks you what's the documentary transfer tax, and it looks like a math question, but it really isn't. It's just asking you what is the documentary transfer tax in that county, which is 55 cents per $500. You'll see that in the binder, okay? But don't worry about these other math questions, which leads me to remind you, if you were in the class, we said this already, chapter 16 in your binder, that appendix, do not do it. Do not waste your time doing that, okay? You do have to know areas, but predominantly, if you look at your binder in that yellow or blue, if you're a broker, the little cheat sheet in the front, I think it's yellow still, there we go. Live Paint is showing it to you right there, it's a bookmark.
Yeah.
Half page, 2-sided. The very first one, 1 acre is 43,560. Chapter 2 in your textbook, again, those are the commonly areas that are on your test. The other one is what's 3 yards, which is 9 feet, what's 1 yard, 3 feet. But those are typically the areas that they want you to know. Also the townships. One thing that I was reminded on when I was flying over our country to get to Nashville was the townships, right? The U.S. rectangular survey system that a lot of the police and fire use when they're doing their job. And you can actually see it, the squared area. I don't know if you ever check it out when you're flying. Do you guys do that? You guys look down to see what, you get a window seat? I like to take videos of that, but my husband decided he wanted the window seat this time. TMI, but more to the story. Next time you're flying, check it out. You actually see the 1 square mile there. Alright. A broker fails to disclose material facts during the sale of real property. The broker's defense is that the listing agreement with the seller was oral. For the broker, there is
No bar to
So what does that mean? No bar to lawsuit. They can still sue. Doesn't matter that it was oral, right?
Because that's your fault.
You have to disclose material facts. Oopsies, what's going on there? Alright, a salesperson changes a land description in a contract. This is considered because remember, land description is legal land description. So if you're changing it without a license, you're in trouble. In addition to a standard policy of title insurance, an Alta policy protects against all of the following except when is the TDS statement not required?
judicial advice.
Remember, TDS, why did I say TDS and not say it as it's spelled out here? Because on your test, you can get it both ways. Okay, you can get it spelled out or you can get it in acronym format. So that's why you have to know your acronyms, okay? Which of the following properties would require a transfer disclosure statement? Remember, under RESPA, R-E-S-P-A, RESPA, it requires a TDS for 1 to 4. We saw this question earlier, where it was all of the above. Now look at the other choices. Remember, single family home, it's not all of the above in this one. It's 1 to 4. And these don't qualify. Make sense? A point on a loan is calculated as?
1% of the
loan
loan amount.
Make sense? At a time when a land sales contract is not yet complete, a buyer stops paying and vacates the property. A cloud on the title is created and remains until a quitclaim deed
Signed by.
We talked about this earlier, didn't we? Again, the concept, now look at how they're asking this question. The same question, just written a little bit different. In the other question, the answer is quit claim deed. That's how you're gonna clear that cloud, okay? This is asking who has to sign it, and it's signed by the buyer, right? Okay. On Monday, a broker accepts a check written to the broker for $2,000 as a deposit. The broker learns that the seller is out of town until Friday and cannot be contacted. Without specific instructions left by the seller, what should the broker do?
Deposit the check for the
Make sense?
Yeah.
How many days do you have?
3 days.
3.
The common theme of this concept is you have 3 days. How many days?
Yeah,
3 days.
Business days.
3 witnesses.
What if,
Calendar days.
what if this,
Business day.
what if there's a Saturday, Sunday?
No,
Business days.
no,
Business.
this is the 3 witnesses.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, got it.
Alright, so how you guys feeling? Good or good? It's 12:55, it's time for lunch.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good time to take